What's up guys, and very happy Thursday to you. Welcome back to Grand Prix World for our pre-season special. Yay, pre-season. I wasn't planning to make this video like any of the last two videos either, but circumstances have conspired against us, or in favour of you, if you prefer this and hate everything else I make. I've been running some tests with a new microphone, and it didn't go well. I put up a test video, and one comment said that it sounded generally better, but what he really wanted was for the game to crash in the middle of my response to his comment, so I'm glad I was able to help you out there. The other comment said he was picking up a sort of low-level humming or buzzing that sounded like having tinnitus, so yay, that's money well spent on that microphone. So I'll give you an update on that. The buzzing appears to be a sound emanating from my computer, and I promise this is true. I can't hear it when I'm playing and talking. I have to move my ears, one side of my head within, let's say, 15 to 20 centimeters of the box of the computer, and then I can sort of hear it. Now, I thought, hey, maybe I've just set the microphone up wrong. Then I looked up a guide for how the microphone should work, and let me explain how I've done it, following the setup guide. And by the way, I'm recording this on the old headset microphone because it's the only one that seems to work to any satisfactory level, even though it's still irritating people. So I've got a Blue Yeti, that's what I ordered, and given that this is a channel that doesn't generate any revenue and never will, I saw that as pretty serious investment because I don't use it for anything else. And I got it because I was told it was the best one to have, and all the reviews of it were stellar, and it looks nice and cool, it seems well made. And I was told, set it up about a foot away from your mouth and turn the level in Windows to 20%. And let me tell you what's wrong with doing that. First of all, even with the level at 100%, without the microphone being within 5 centimeters of my face, it's just too quiet. It doesn't pick anything up. And what it does record at that distance still gets drowned out by games like Dirt Rally that I've been testing with today. I've checked the microphone is in the correct mode. Things get a little bit better, but not amazing, if I record in Audacity. But the problem then becomes that the audio and video just consistently desync, and I have no idea why. The audio clip is the same length as the video clip, stitch them together and something goes wrong, and it happens every time when I'm testing. And now I'm frustrated, so we're playing Grand Prix World 2 days early because I had an hour to kill before I have to do some other stuff and end my day. So anyway, let's try not to be bitter about it, but if any of you guys are microphone experts, maybe you can tell me what the balls is going on, because everyone I've seen using this microphone can have it halfway across the bastarding room and it still picks them up clear as day and nice and crisp. And I have it right in my face and nothing happens, and I've tried switching modes and all kinds of things. Maybe it's broken, but I don't think I'm that unlucky twice, because the first one was completely broken. So I always ask for your feedback on what I'm doing and stuff, but if any of you are microphone experts, just shoot me a message and tell me what the fucking hell is going on. Right, let's do pre-season. Okay, welcome back to Arrows. Just under 3 million in the bank to greet us. We did drop 6 million, a very cool 6 million, on upgrading our factory last year, and I'm very pleased we managed to get away with doing that, because it means we don't have to wait another year to upgrade the factory, and we were in a financial position at the end of the season that we couldn't know we were going to be in at the start. So that was all happy news indeed. Now, let's get on with business, with a bit of bidness. Let's see who's driving for who this season. So, we have Pedro Diniz and Giancarlo Fisichella, equal number 1 drivers, driving for us for the final season potentially. The agreement has been that we are going to try and re-sign them. An interesting fact about this game, everyone has a birthday in the off-season. Who even knew? Who even knew? What a happy coincidence. That means they can all have birthday parties together. It's pretty sweet, huh? Anyway, Deniz is now 32 and Fisichella is 30. They had a very, very close season last season, which was more down to poor luck for Fisichella than it was for Deniz. Both of them have developed very, very, very well. Particularly Deniz, who is now level 3 for speed. That is very, very good news indeed. Obvious weakness, but concentration and wet weather are 5 out of 5 for both drivers. Morale is 5 out of 5 for both drivers. Both are capable overtakers. They're relatively evenly matched, actually. The gap between them is not as big as it was when we signed Fisichella. That's very, very encouraging for another close season, although I'm not sure if maybe we should try keeping them on the same tyre strategy going into the season. Fisichella has won his first World Championship, and I think he's been a positive influence on the team. He's developed a synergy with us almost immediately. He seemed to get the best out of the car from day one, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes you hire a new driver who's had a stellar season somewhere else and he just doesn't gel with the car. In the testing role, we still have Carl Eisen, who is 32 but doesn't look it, and he has no race starts to his name, and because no one's injured themselves last season, he didn't gain one. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's probably not going to get a race drive in this playthrough, because we're all incredibly fond of Pedro Diniz, and I think that's fair, and Fisichella is just not put a foot wrong. Now, we do still have to talk about potential replacements for them, because contract negotiations don't go our way very often. We will cover that once we've finished the rundown of who's where for this season, so let's crack on with that. David Coulthard continues to lead at Benetton, supported by Jarno Trulli for a second season. That's a very strong driver lineup in my book. Jarno Trulli is a driver who generally develops quite well. This game, his stats haven't been particularly spectacular, but for the price of 1.7 million, he is a driver who will go forward. He's only 28, so younger than both Fisichella and Diniz, and certainly I think younger than Coulthard. Coulthard himself is now costing 8 million a season, so Benetton must be scraping the pennies together from somewhere. You'll see his stats are... well, he's certainly in the upper echelons, but the wet weather form is something of a weakness, and we did see that last season, to be fair. We saw the Benetton suffer in rainy conditions. Now, we put that down to the car, but it seems it could also be down to the driver. Stefan Sarrazin remains as the test driver. No race starts for him. Oh, actually no, he had 9 races in his time at Prost, because he replaced Jarno Trulli for a period of time, that's correct. No points to his name though. Moving on to Ferrari. Ferrari is still being led by Michael Schumacher in the final season of his contract. We don't really need to talk about him too much or look at his stats, because I mean, it's Michael Schumacher. Now, supporting him is Celso Moreira, who is something of an unknown quantity, but he has gained a point over the last season. He has... sorry for all the clicking. No race starts to his name, but he has gained a point because none of them had more than two twos, if that makes sense, last time we checked. So maybe he was a test driver last season and got lucky. In the testing role is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, getting old now, Heinz-Harald, 35, 7.2 million, but look at his stats. Former world champion, I believe, yes, a one-time world champion, 17 race wins to his name, and a total of 334 career points. He was our number 1 target last season and blew us off to test drive for an unknown Brazilian. So, I hope you're happy with your decision there, Heinz-Harald. Moving on to Jordan, they retain for the second year in a row the lineup of Tora Takagi and Alexander Wurz. Takagi bringing a cool 8.2 million into the team. That's an increase over what he normally brings, so I believe Season 1, his sponsorship package is worth 6.4 million, so Jordan have got a few extra bucks out of him there. 29 years old, nothing to really write home about, but he's coming along actually, he has improved. I guess that comes from being at a decent midfield team. 7 career points, 5 points races, and 96 races total, so he's not that much less experienced than Giancarlo Fisichella, to be fair. Now Alexander Wurz is one of my favourite drivers in the game. 1.76 million Jordan are paying him. He's in the final season of his contract. He shapes up very, very, very well indeed compared to Fisichella. In fact, he is 1 point better than Fisichella. Oh no, they're equal because Fisichella's got 1 more point in concentration. Yeah, no, he is better than Fisichella. I'm sorry for the silence there. He is better than Fisichella, only ever so slightly. He's had 99 races, 4 race wins, and a total of 145 career points, 6 fastest laps, and 40 points races. So he is more accomplished than Fisichella, even has more pole positions, but just hasn't landed that championship. These two would make an excellent partnership. If for whatever reason we lose Deniz, that would be a great partnership for us. Likewise, if Fisichella does not wish to stay with the team, Wurz would be a great signing. Trulli as well could be a backup plan. If we're going to lose a pay driver, then we don't want to take on anyone too expensive, and Wurz and Trulli are both under 2 million, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Ricardo Zonta will be the test driver this season, 26, Brazilian. No race starts thus far, but you know, he's an option for Jordan. They could always move him into a race seat and he could develop. I mean, it's very rare actually teams allow a driver to ascend from a testing role into a race seat, which is a little bit unrealistic, but it has been known to happen. Celso Moreira has been promoted from a test seat. I don't believe he was Ferrari tester, but I think he was testing somewhere. Moving onwards, a very strong lineup at McLaren this season. Mika Hakkinen returns to McLaren after a very long stint at Prost that I didn't think he'd see out, but he did, and he signed a 5-season deal to be joint number 1 at McLaren, teaming up with Johnny Newhouse and supported by Jörg Müller. That's going to be a team to worry about, to be perfectly frank. It's a very strong driver lineup. McLaren were consistently able to challenge us. I'm actually concerned that, well, not concerned, it's too early to be concerned really, but I think they're going to be our strongest rivals this season, and depending on what power plant they're running, I think it could be a very interesting rundown indeed for us this season with McLaren. Minardi continue to run Mika Salo and Jan Magnussen. Both of them are in the final season of their respective contracts. They've been a team now for 4 years, I think. Yeah, it was a long-term deal. I think it's 4 seasons as teammates, so they will have come along together. Mika Salo left us, of course. He has improved, but he's really not worth our time. Likewise, Jan Magnussen is underwhelming at best. It seems the time at Minardi, although the team has gone forward, the drivers certainly have not. Laurent Redon continues until 2006 as their test driver. Moving on to Prost, and the team of Alessandro Marini and one Shinji Nakano continues. Marini is due to stay at Prost until 2007. Let's take a look here. Nothing particularly interesting. He's really not deserving of a race seat, to be honest. He's got 1 point to his name. Shinji Nakano, on the other hand, has 4 race wins, which he earned with us. He brings in 4 million. I think that's a drop over what he was paying us, if I recall. Maybe I'm wrong. He's 31 now, and yeah, his stats are not amazing. I think he's actually gone backwards in his time at Prost, so we wouldn't be looking at him again. John Fellows was our test driver at one point. We were considering him for a race seat. He's only 28 still. he hasn't improved or gone backwards, and he's committed to Prost until the end of this season. I don't see any reason to bring him on board now. To be honest, it's a little bit late in the game, I think, and we can't really afford to not be running on all cylinders when it comes to drivers. We're not at a comfortable enough position, I feel, to continue winning and develop a young driver. We would almost certainly go backwards. That said, I'm always open to doing it if that's what people want to see. Moving on to Sauber, Jean Alesi, still leading the team after his move from Jordan. He's with them till 2006, supported by Juan Pablo Montoya. Alesi is a veteran now, 38 years old, a very, very talented driver, but obviously nearing the end of his career. I think 2006 should absolutely be his last season, because he'll be 41 at that point, so I'm pretty sure he'll retire before we finish the game. Juan Pablo Montoya, on the other hand, 27. Let's take a look at his stats. 64 races, no points. Nothing really of much interest to us in his statistics. His stint at Tyrrell and his time at... Actually, he's only been at Tyrrell, hasn't he? His time at Tyrrell has done nothing for him, but he did earn a promotion to Sauber. I'm not sure what their motivation was behind signing him, but they've chosen to do it. Ralf Schumacher is their test driver, inexplicably. The first thing I'd do if I was a team manager at Sauber would be switch those guys around. Schumacher holds up very, very well. I'd still prefer Wurz over him, frankly. I think he's got weaknesses in areas where I like to see strength, particularly concentration. And he's quite expensive, actually, coming in at 4 million. We probably have to pay him 4.2, 4.3 to lure him away. Onto Stewart, where Ricardo Rosset continues to lead the team. It's his final season, 34 years old now. I think he has developed, his concentration has certainly grown, and he's been a very safe pair of hands for Stewart, actually. I think he's taken the team forward, and I think he's really been the consistent, strong performer in that team. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's worth our time, but his time at Stewart has not been a waste of his time. If maybe it could have been, you would think, a waste of Stewart's time, it certainly hasn't been. I think he'll be out of a drive this season. I don't see anyone else picking him up. Even with the 4.3 million, I think there's better options out there, but I could be proven wrong. Now, getting his first race drive is Emmanuel Collard, and his ridiculous French hair. Look at that. Someone let him outside for that, and then, this is the best bit, the PR person responsible for him let him have his photo taken with that hair, on purpose. Now, maybe he doesn't pay very well, I don't know, I don't want to get into any kind of personal thing with him, but Jesus Christ. If I was working for him, I'd say, look, put a hat on, mate, before you go. I mean, people are going to be playing this game in 20 years' time on YouTube and going to be talking about your hair, and here we are. I don't know, you should have given me a job. Luca Badoa moves out of a race seat at McLaren after a very, very dismal season into a testing role, and he gained some points, sure. His price is fairly reasonable, 119,000 a year. There are marketing people who earn more money than that. But, again, 32, not really worth anyone's time. I think putting him in a test role would have been a reasonable call, actually, for many teams, but for us, holds no interest. The mysterious Esteban Tuero, replaced at Benetton, has moved on a one-season deal to Tyrrell. And his stint at Benetton was lackluster, to say the best. He was comprehensively trounced by David Coulthard at every point during his time there, but he did learn something. His wet weather and his raw speed have both increased, I believe, and he's bringing a healthy 3.7 million into Tyrrell, which covers a minute fraction of Damon Hill's salary, I would expect. Damon Hill, 42 now, still not retired, still not announced his retirement either. his stats are pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, but his paycheck is not. No offence, Damon, but if a 42-year-old man asked me for a job as a racing driver and then faxed me a $13.848 million contract request, I would laugh so hard I urinated in my pants, and then I would shred the fax, probably in front of him. That's just not the sort of investment I'd make in a driver of that age, even if his stats are fantastic. It's just not worth it. He's in his final season of his time at Tyrrell, and I imagine his final season of F1. I'd be very surprised if he hasn't retired by the end of the season. Patrick Rainbow, best name in the world. 29, French, looks a little bit odd. Bit of racial stereotyping here, but I could see him in a beret. His stats are not particularly amazing. Not even not particularly amazing, they're just underwhelming beyond almost anything else. I think he's arguably the worst driver we've looked at since we went down this list. I'm fairly sure that he's a decent signing as a test driver, but I don't see him troubling anyone for a race seat anytime soon. Williams continue with the strong pairing of Johnny Herbert and Eddie Irvine. Both these drivers are a little bit older, Herbert at 38, Irvine at 37. If we look at Herbert, 4.3 million to sign Herbert. He's very, very talented. That comes with experience, of course, while Irvine is the better of the two. They're equal number one drivers, and they made for a very dynamic force last season, actually. I thought they got the best out of the Williams, and they were consistent point scorers. They didn't get on the podium all that frequently, but they were often around the 4th, 5th and 6th mark, which was a massive improvement over the season before, where the team frankly struggled to achieve much beyond propping up the grid. Andrea Montemini, out of a race drive at Stewart, has moved into the testing role here. Not much to say about him. He's a 38-year-old man with no points to his name and very, very little skill points to show for his time in Formula 1. Still outside F1 are these guys. Let's see who's got them big bucks this year. It's still Loretti, 29, 13.4 million. They're not going to have developed. Retirees, Olivier Panis and Rubens Barrichello has now retired. He was dropped by Ferrari in favour of fellow Brazilian Celso Moreira and opted to retire at the start of this season. We will see that in the news. There we go. Very, very sad to see him go. He's an excellent driver in this game, actually, and he was on my radar. But I had a sneaky glance beforehand and I didn't big him up too much while I was talking about Trulli and Wurz. But he was definitely in that mix. Sad to see you go, Rubens. Sad to see Olivier Panis go, but it does mean that seats open up for younger drivers. It just seems unlikely that will be the one giving them their shot at glory. Now, moving on to the technical schnizzle. Who is where this season? Let's take a look. Team sponsors. First of all, East will be sponsoring Benetton, and Murano will be sponsoring Jordan. Winfried sponsor Ferrari. Benetton have got another season on top of this one to run on that East deal, and that's big, big money bucks for them. Murano and Winfried are the other 5-star sponsors. Jordan will really benefit from that cash. Playlife we wanted to sign, but they are unavailables. Oh no, I take that back. Playlife are available. They're currently with Sauber, but the contract expires this season. Playlife are a 4-star sponsor. I think that's a good target for us. There'll be big competition for the top spots, to be honest. Blondes, on the other hand, are committed to Prost until 2006, which surprises me actually, because Prost have been on the downward trend consistently since the start of the game. Really, they only had one breakout season with Mika Hakkinen, who occasionally broke the top 10, picked up a point here and there, but Certainly nothing worthy of having a team sponsorship deal. Buzzing Hornet sponsor Tyrrell, and Red Bull are with us. That's a hell of a coup for Tyrrell, by the way. Now, let's take a look at who's running what. Ferrari and Prost both have Works Ferrari contracts. Now, this is a very big deal indeed for Prost. Given that they've got a team sponsor and they've got a Works Ferrari deal, they're going to be quids in this season, and we might see them take a step forward, maybe not immediately, but possibly next season. Mercedes-Benz provide Works Power to us, while McLaren get a partner deal. Benetton are the other Works Mercedes partner, continuing a relationship that has been quite fruitful actually. Benetton have been a top 3 team for the last 3 seasons, and deservedly so. Peugeot have a partner deal with Tyrrell. I feel bad for Tyrrell, they didn't get a Works out of Peugeot, to be honest. We did a lot of development work for Peugeot last season, and their engine should, I hope, improve as a result. Mugen Honda have no partners this season. Ford have partner deals in place with Sauber and Williams, while Jordan get the Works deal. Not a big cash injection for Jordan there, but still, combine that with a 5-star cash sponsor as a team brand, and you're looking at a decent income for a team that suffered a developmental hangover last season. They were, of course, our biggest rivals, and they pipped us to the post in 2001. 2002, they paid the price for that. They developed their car through till the end of the season, even though they didn't really have the economic capacity to do so, and while we lifted our foot off the gas, they pressed onwards and upwards and eventually came crashing down because of it. I expect Jordan to have a good recovery year this year. I wouldn't expect to see him go backwards, but the game does surprise us. The benefit of Works Power, of course, is that as long as they've got an agreement in place where they can develop the engine and they have the capacity to test, they should go forward quicker than Sauber or Williams are capable of doing. I think Williams will suffer from having a partner deal, and to be honest, I think Sauber could do with getting a Works deal somewhere, but I don't know who would give them one. Mechachrome have 2 customers this season in Minardi and Stewart. I think that's fairly wise investments on both their parts. Neither of them have been in a great place to pick up a partnership recently. I think they'd do better targeting their sponsorship elsewhere, and that's what they've done. I would like to see particularly Minardi move up to a partner deal with someone next season, but Mechachrome is a good, solid, backup engine. I think it's strong in a number of areas. It just, it lacks rigidity generally. We'll bring up the stats actually and take a look for ourselves. What am I doing? There we go. Right. So let's take a look at that Mechachrome unit. Yeah, I mean that's a good engine in my mind. That is a very good engine. The rigidity is lacking, as we said, but that puts them in a fairly good position. I don't think Minardi or Stewart are going to be particularly hampered by that at all. Meanwhile, Ford are no longer the powerhouse manufacturer they once were. The engine is still very, very competitive. It lacks rigidity as well. It particularly lacks reliability, but it's no worse than the Mugen Honda units. But Ford are no longer the engine to have, which they were for a period of time. Peugeot produce a very, very reliable engine in every respect except reliability. That's great stats everywhere else. The responsiveness is lacking somewhat, but it's nothing to really concern yourself with for round 1. But that drop in power and the drop in reliability are a big surprise to me. Moving on to Mercedes-Benz, and yeah, we can see immediately where the problems lie there. Excellent power. The best reliability on the grid this year, which is a surprise to me, joint with Mechachrome. Fairly good responsiveness, good rigidity. It's a reasonably light engine, but it's not particularly fuel efficient, and by God does it not like the heat. And as a team that suffers with that anyway, that's an area of great concern for us, and we're going to have to work our balls off to make sure that that problem is mitigated at the earliest possible chance. The Ferrari unit is somewhat underwhelming for Ferrari, actually. I don't see much there to get excited about, apart from the fact that the engine is very, very light. It's not going to pass a lot of vibration through the bodywork of the car, but then most engines don't, so it's not really an advantage over anybody else. I would go so far as to say, if it wasn't for the fact they had a work steel, Prost would have been much, much better off getting the Mugen Honda unit. Yeah, I don't know. Looking at it, I might have actually preferred the Ford engine over the Ferrari. I think I probably would, actually. Yeah. The Mercedes-Benz is not a terrible engine. It is certainly one of the strongest engines to begin with. I think it's probably the strongest engine to begin with, but the deficiency is a big deficiency, and we will have to address it quickly. Moving on to tyres. Bridgestone are the work supplier for Jordan. They will be providing partner deals to Williams, Ferrari, and customer tyres to Prost. Another works deal to Benetton. Interesting that Jordan have two major works deals going on, a big cash sponsor. I think I can feel a bit more confident in my assessment that they were going to begin to recover this season, and I'd put them in the Benetton kind of ballpark. Maybe Williams in that mix as well. Moving on to Goodyear. They're supplying ourselves and Sauber with works deals. Good to see Sauber pick up a works deal. And partner deals for McLaren and Tyrrell. Stewart and Minardi are the customers. No real shockers there, except that McLaren seem to be struggling to get works deals at the moment. Now, fuel. Oh, let's look at the tyre stats first. So, we are running Goodyears this year, and again, we've made the right call. The rain tyre is a problem, the full wet. I think that needs some love. The hard tyre doesn't really seem to last as long as one would hope, but looking at the comparison between the tyres, I would go so far as to say quite confidently that we have the right tyres. We've got the lower amount of developmental work to do to get the tyres to the best specification that Goodyear can provide. Now, the benefit as well is that Goodyear's R&D budget is much higher than Bridgestone's, although Bridgestone pay more when you get a works deal. So we have chosen development over cash there, and it was certainly the right decision for us to make. Moving on to fuels. Jordan and McLaren both have works fuel supplies with Shell, so Jordan are works across the board. That's very, very impressive, actually. McLaren do get a works deal at long last, but I can't be sure that they are the preferred partner there. We are the only works team for Mobile 1, and it's a great little deal for us, that $3 million a year guaranteed, and we've got full control over development of the fuel. Minardi are a partner. Texaco have a partnership with Stewart. Total are in partnership with Williams and Tyrrell, and that's the first time Williams have not been buying their race fuel, so that's a step forward for them. A partnership deal for Tyrrell is good. It doesn't save as much money as a partner engine deal, but the fact they've got both, sort of that compound effect, means they've probably saved themselves quite a significant sum of money there, probably somewhere in the region of 9 to 10 million. Agip will be providing customer fuels to Prost and partner fuels to Sauber. Esso have nobody, Repsol have nobody, Petrobras have nobody, and Elf are a partner of Ferrari, and Benetton is their customer. Now, Benetton, I'm surprised actually they've only gone for a customer fuel deal there, but that works to our advantage. Ferrari, I'm surprised that they went with Elf at all, because there was never an opportunity for a works deal there. But I guess maybe the Shell deals went quite quickly to Jordan and McLaren, and they had to pick a secondary option. Looking at the race fuels themselves, we have picked well. we have a middle of the road fuel. It's very, very balanced. In fact, it's perfectly balanced. 5 points in each, so no strengths, no weaknesses. It's actually Petrobras have managed to completely match that formula, so they've actually taken a significant step up this season. Shame no one's using that fuel this year, but the difference is that we'd be stuck with this if we were with Petrobras, whereas Mobile One will give us 3 million and develop a better race fuel for us as the season progresses. Who else is of note? Total is very, very easy on the engine. Combine that with the Mechachrome units that Stuart are running, and I think that might actually reduce some of the vibration problem that engine has. So, oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong bloody thing. Completely ignore that. Completely ignore that. I was reading Total as if it was Texaco. That means the absolute opposite then. Texaco provide a power fuel, and given the rigidity problems that the Stuart Mechachrome units have, that's actually going to exacerbate that problem, and I'd expect to see Stuart have some reliability problems in the early season. Controversial. Total then, very, very easy on the engine. I believe that's Williams and somebody else. Total was Williams and Tyrrell. Okay, well, I think maybe that was a better deal for Tyrrell than it'll turn out to be for Williams. Meanwhile, Shell have also produced a middle-of-the-road fuel, so Jordan and McLaren are on the same footing as us for race fuel, though I believe we can outdevelop both of those teams with the testing rig that we've got, the extra R&D chassis. I think we're capable of outdeveloping them and having a superior fuel for most of the season. Nothing else of particular interest. Esso have taken a step forward, but they don't like us, so I didn't see the point of dealing with them. And Agip have produced a very, very good fuel, actually. The big losers will be particularly Ferrari with that ELF deal. You could argue that the engine tolerance is passable, but the lack of power is very disconcerting. I don't think it's a fair trade-off. Repsol actually offers a better trade-off, arguably, because at least you're getting more of a benefit for such a loss. Total as well would have been a better option for them. Anyway, exciting stuff, I'm sure you'll agree. Thank you so very much for joining me. I will see you very, very, very soon for round 1 and 2 of the 2003 season, where we will see how our efforts hopefully continue to provide us bountiful fruit, although I can't guarantee it. I hope you guys have been having an amazing week. Tomorrow's Friday, that's a good thing. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees on that. And I will be out drinking, so either there'll be a hungover video on Saturday or I'll talk to you Sunday. Have a good one.